Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Roman with Pro Football Exclusive, and I have another 2013 team preview for you guys with the 2013 Seattle Seahawks. Just to recap, towards the end of last season, the Seattle Seahawks were fighting for the division title against the San Francisco 49ers in the NFC West. And I believe they won that title. I don't exactly remember because the 49ers tied with the Rams. But the Seahawks went into the playoffs, the divisional round, and they were losing 14-0 to RG3's Redskins, and they were losing 14-0, like I said, and they came back and won 24-14 without allowing any second half points. So they won that game, go on to the divisional round to face the first seeded Atlanta Falcons, and so it was a bird versus bird game, and the Seahawks came into Atlanta, pumped, ready to go. We're like, okay, man, we can go to the NFC Championship, possibly play the 49ers. Let's go, baby. We got this. And then they come into the game, and all of a sudden, just boom, 20-0 Falcons before halftime, and it looks like the Seahawks are done. They're out. There's no way they'll have a chance at winning this game. No chance of going to the NFC Championship game versus the 49ers. And the Seahawks, all of a sudden, right after halftime, Russell Wilson, Marshawn Lynch, Golden Tate, Sidney Rush, their defense just turns it on. They're like, we're tired of being picked on. Let's go. Let's get right back into this game. And then all of a sudden they took a 27-20 lead, if I'm correct. Now, it was 27-20, and then all of a sudden, Falcons made a couple field goals, so it's 27-26. And it just looks like, there's like a minute left. There's around a minute left, and the Seahawks, look like they have this game. Matt Ryan's deep in his own territory. There's no way they'll win this game. But then, Matt Ryan does this thing, if you know what I'm about to say. No timeouts, down, losing the game, and, Matt Ryan's still searching for that first playoff win. And all of a sudden, Matt Ryan, deep in his own territory, just throws the ball straight into the air, possibly almost hitting the roof, comes down, and Roddy White catches it right around the 50-yard line with no timeouts left. They hurry up offense, and all of a sudden, they spike the ball, get a first down, get within field goal range for Matt Bryant. And I believe there's 8 seconds left, and Matt Bryant kicks the ball through the goalpost, 29-27, and the Falcons win the game and move on to the NFC Championship to face the San Francisco 49ers. So the Seahawks had a sad end to their season. I hated to see it go. They were my upset to win the entire NFC. I didn't think there was any way that was going to stop them. They came up just short of the Atlanta Falcons. And based on the end of their season, that should be their motivation. We lost the Falcons. We are going to come back and tear it up this season. So we're going to get into the veteran additions. And, probably my favorite offseason move, no doubt, was Percy Harvin, wide receiver from the Vikings. And they went out and got this guy. They needed a number one guy. Sidney Rice and Golden Tate were there, but they weren't really living up to what, Sidney Rice did in Minnesota when Brett Favre was there. And Golden Tate, he's pretty good. I'm not going to lie. He's very, I believe, underrated, in my opinion. He doesn't really get a lot of respect because he's such a younger person. He's a younger guy from Notre Dame, and he's a great player. So then they go and grab Cliff Averill, defensive lineman from the Lions, which was an outstanding pick. Michael Bennett, another defensive lineman from the Buccaneers, who was friggin' outstanding with Tampa Bay. They go and grab Tony McDaniel from Miami. And then they go and get Antoine Winfield, a cornerback from Minnesota the last season. And then they, get Marcus Trufant. So, in my opinion, the Seahawks had the best offseason, right up there with the Vikings and the Rams. The Seahawks went and grabbed a top 10 receiver, if he still stays healthy, top 10 lineman, 2 top 10 linemen possibly, a great defensive, not like the best defensive lineman, but Tony McDaniel. And then they go and grab Antoine Winfield and Marcus Trufant, who are both great cornerbacks in the NFL, to add to the secondary that's already stacked full of players. I'm just getting started. I'm excited. This team's exciting. I'm really excited to watch this team this year. So we go into the draft. The additions all happen before the draft, and the losses happen before the draft. They go into the draft. They had 11 picks, but I'm going to talk only about 5 of them. And their first pick wasn't until the second round, and they traded a few picks with the Vikings to get Percy Harvin and Antoine Winfield. So they don't get their first pick till the second round. They go and grab Christine Michael, running back out of Texas A&M, and then they go and then their next pick isn't until the third round. They grab Jordan Hill, a defensive lineman from Penn State. They go and grab another receiver just to add to the depth of the receiver position. Chris Harper out of Kansas State. Then they had 3 fifth-round picks. I believe they traded with the Vikings. And they got Jesse Williams, a lineman, which they needed really bad. That's what the Seahawks were missing right before the draft. And then they went and grabbed Jesse Williams, nose tackle out of Alabama. Great pick. And then they got Thurald Simon, I believe. And he's a cornerback out of LSU to add to that cornerback depth that they already have. And then they went and grabbed Luke Wilson, a tight end, which they needed. So we should see how that turns out. I believe, their draft wasn't really like the most exciting draft. They went and grabbed running back just in case something happens to Marshawn Lynch now that they got rid of Justin Forsett and Leon Washington. And then they went and grabbed another receiver to add to the depth of their receiving core. And then they grabbed another corner, and they needed a lineman, which they got an offensive lineman. They went and grabbed Jesse Williams to join up with Russell Okung and Max Unger, some of the best offensive linemen in the game. And then Jordan Hill to get added to that line with Cliff Averill, Michael Bennett, Tony McDaniel, and Bruce Irvin all on the defense. So, and then some of the losses they had, they didn't really lose that much. They lost Matt Flynn. They don't need him. They just have Russell Wilson, so they should be okay as long as he stays healthy. They lost Frank Omiale, probably their biggest loss of the offseason. Alan Branch, Jason Jones, Leroy Hill, and then Leon Washington, which is probably one of the only names that really stands out to everybody on this list because Leon Washington was probably one of the better kick returners in the league, and he's easily replaceable for kick returner. He wasn't really running the ball too much. Now that they have Robert Turbin also backing up Marshawn Lynch and then Christine Michael there as well. So Leon Washington was only getting kick returns, or like maybe we can use a corner or a receiver like Percy Harvin. And that's what Percy Harvin's job is as well, besides playing the wide receiver position, was just, their losses. And, their losses aren't really, they didn't really lose too much. I mean, they didn't really have much to replace them with. I think they already have a solid team, probably one of the best teams in the NFL already, just off their additions in the offseason. But, getting into their defense here, the Seattle Seahawks defense is stacked to no other. They have so much talent on defense, it's incredible. They have Cliff Averill, top 10 lineman. Michael Bennett, top 10 lineman. Bruce Irvin, who's suspended for a couple games for a couple problems they had in the offseason with some Adderall, I believe. Not trying to take anything away from the player. Bruce Irvin was one of the questionable picks of the 2012 draft, and he came out and got 8 sacks. Michael Bennett had 9 sacks last season. So, that's a great addition, Michael Bennett and Cliff Averill. And then Bruce Irvin, linebacker, who's had a lot of question marks around him, and he came out and showed everyone, he's like, I'm not a question mark, I'm a guy, I'm ready to play. But now he's suspended for a few games, but he's still a great player. And now you get into their secondary, the quarterback safety position, and you're just like, wow, how in the world is anybody going to pass against this defense? They have Richard Sherman, probably the best corner in the league, in my opinion. I think he's the best corner in the league. There's no doubt about that. Earl Thomas, pretty good, very good corner. Brandon Browner, great player. Antoine Winfield, great corner. Marcus Trufant, great corner. Cam Chancellor, great safety. Their defense is so stacked. They're fast. They have insane closing speed. If you've ever seen Richard Sherman, his closing speed is ridiculous. And then they also have height. They have a great wingspan. They can block the ball, swat the ball, intercept the ball, run for a touchdown. If they intercept the ball, fumble recovery, whatever. Their defense is stacked. Cliff Averill, Michael Bennett, Bruce Irvin, Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, Brandon Browner, Antoine Winfield, Marcus Trufant, and Cam Chancellor. And we're not even talking about the offense here. The defense is stacked. And if you think the Seattle Seahawks defense, Mr. Skip Bayless, I'm not trying to point out anybody, I'm just saying Skip Bayless said that, I just don't think that the Seahawks defense is just so overrated. They don't really have that many great corners, which I was shocked to hear. I mean, Skip Bayless, sometimes I agree with his stuff. I think he's the biggest troll in the sporting world. I'm not trying to, just point fingers here or anything or make fun of anyone, but you shouldn't say something like that. They have great talent on this team. You shouldn't be negative about a team, but Richard Sherman, Earl Thomas, Brandon Browner, Antoine Winfield, Marcus Trufant, Cam Chancellor, stacked secondary, stacked line with Cliff Averill, Michael Bennett, and Bruce Irvin. Although Bruce Irvin does play the linebacker position, I believe. And then the offensive line has Russell Okung, Max Unger, and Jesse Williams out of Alabama. So the O-line should be okay. That was one of their problems last season was the O-line. Russell Wilson was sacked quite a bit. Not too much, but not too little. And so that's going to lead me right into the season. Now, before I get into my prediction for the season and what the Seahawks will do, I am not a fan of the Seahawks. I do not hate the 49ers. I do not hate the NFC West. I'm a fan of every team in the NFL, but when it comes down to things, I'm a Cowboys fan for sure. I want every team to succeed in the NFL, so don't be upset. The Seattle Seahawks have a 12th man, as you can see on the screen. And, you're like, who's their 12th man? Is it a player, coach? Who is it? No, Seattle Seahawks have their fans. Their fans are so dedicated and so loud. It is incredible. If you've listened, when they were playing the Patriots, for example, I believe week 2 is getting down to the wire. They're stopping Tom Brady on a few downs, and it is loud. The TV was loud. It was loud, and it wasn't even really that loud. And you just heard the fans just, screaming at the top of their lungs, Seahawks, Seahawks, whatever. And it was so loud, and that is their 12th man, the Seahawks fans. The fans change the outcomes for the games. It makes it loud for anybody to hear. And I just think the Seahawks are just a great, fun team to watch. They've been a fun team to watch for a while now. And, now that they have their fans just loud as heck, their stadium was so loud. Probably the loudest in the NFL, no doubt about that. But, that's their 12th man for sure. It's not a coach. It's not a player. It's not a coordinator. Not a defensive player. None of that. But we're going to go get into the season right here. And when you look at their season, it's pretty easy. Besides a couple teams like the Giants and the Saints, a tough team. They faced the 49ers twice. That's not going to be an easy task. They faced the Texans, the Colts, and just about it. But the team that I'm going to point out, probably the game of the year in my opinion, is the Seattle Seahawks versus the Atlanta Falcons in Atlanta again. This game is going to be intense. I believe we have formed a rivalry here. These two teams have formed a rivalry, and we'll be seeing them play a few more years together against each other, I believe. And they're at Atlanta. They were at Atlanta in the postseason. And then they lost, sadly, by 2 points off of a field goal. The defense couldn't stop them. They went out and grabbed defense in the offseason. And now they go to Atlanta, and it's probably the game of the year, like I've said before. And I just think the Falcons will take it away again. I think the Seahawks will fight hard, definitely, and then they'll they'll fight hard. But in the end, the Atlanta Falcons will win the game. It'll be a great game, no doubt. But the Seattle Seahawks will stay undefeated at home. They're on their home turf. The Seahawks are just unstoppable. When you have Russell Wilson, Marshawn Lynch, Golden Tate, Percy Harvin, Sidney Rice, Max Unger, Russell Okung, Jesse Williams, all on that offense, you're just like, wow, what a team. You look at their defense, Richard Sherman, Brandon Browner, Earl Thomas, Antoine Winfield, Marcus Trufant, Cam Chancellor, Cliff Averill, Michael Bennett, Bruce Irvin. They have the best defense in the NFL, which is going to lead the Seattle Seahawks to a number 2 seed or a number 1 seed in the conference at a record of 13-3. You're like, 13-3? That's a little out of this world, don't you think? That's a little ridiculous. That's too much for a team. The team went 11-5 last year, lost a few games that they shouldn't have, and they blew out the Cardinals 55-0, and then they blew out the Buffalo Bills. They're not the best teams. I'm not trying to take anything away from those teams. They're great teams, of course. And now that they just stacked their defense in the offseason, they added another receiver that I believe is going to stay healthy throughout the entire season, Percy Harvin. If he stays healthy, this team is easily a 13-win team. If Russell Wilson doesn't have a sophomore slump, which I don't believe in, sophomore slump is overrated. if that's the word you could use for it. And Russell Wilson, Percy Harvin, Marshawn Lynch, Robert Turbin if he jumps in for a little bit, Golden Tate, Sidney Rice, they will come into the season and their offense is going to be fast, dangerous, and it's going to be very fun to watch. I'm excited to watch the Seahawks this year. But they'll have a 13-win season, and the only teams that they'll lose to, they'll go 13-3. The only teams that they'll lose to are the Falcons, the Saints, and the 49ers at San Francisco. Now, if they do not, lose to the Saints, I believe it's going to be a close game, but the Saints will win that game. So they can easily be 14-2, 12-4. Maybe they might lose to the Giants. I don't really see them losing to any other team. They can beat Houston, no doubt about that. And then they're splitting with San Francisco. Other than that, I don't really see the Seahawks going anything less than 12-4. They're a great team. They have an insane defense. They have a great offense. And besides the Falcons, Saints, and 49ers, Seahawks will win the division. Me and Justin will come out with the San Francisco 49ers video soon, and I'll explain it a little bit more then because I haven't told you their record yet, my opinion of what their record will be. I just think the Seahawks have probably the best team in the NFL. Now with Von Miller possibly being suspended for 4 games from the Broncos, that'll be a little bit more difficult for them to win. The Broncos also will go around. I don't even want to tell you the record. When we get to the video, I'll tell you. I just think the Seahawks have, the best team in the NFL right now. I don't want to hype this team too much because what happened to the 2009 Eagles? They got Nnamdi Asomugha, they got all these offseason additions, great draft picks, and then all of a sudden everyone got injured. Michael Vick, Deshaun Jackson, LaShawn McCoy, Nnamdi Asomugha didn't play well at all, although he's still a great corner. Now he's with San Francisco, and I just hope this team isn't like that. The Seahawks are fun to watch. Everybody's a Seahawks fan at least at some time in their life, whether it be just for a game or two, when they're rooting for them to beat a team that they hate or any other situation that may come across. But the Seahawks are very fun to watch. I'm excited for the season. I'm excited to watch their defense. I'm really excited to watch their offense, their special teams with Percy Harvin returning kicks. If Percy Harvin can stay healthy, this team is dangerous. Even without Percy Harvin, this team is dangerous, but not as dangerous. So the record will be 13-3. I believe Russell Wilson, I didn't really get into Russell Wilson, but Russell Wilson, in my opinion, should have been Rookie of the Year last year. He played all 16 games, tied the record for the most touchdowns thrown in a single season. He had around 30 total rushing, counting the rushing and passing. Marshawn Lynch, third best running back in the league, top 3, with Arian Foster, Adrian Peterson, and Marshawn Lynch right around there. And then they have Percy Harvin, who can easily be a top 10 receiver, probably the best slot receiver in the NFL behind Russ Welker, maybe Victor Cruz, somewhere right around there. And then they have probably one of the best rookie quarterbacks to ever join the league. I mean, he was drafted in the 3rd round, and you saw the photo earlier, they pass on you, you pass on them, Nike symbol, whatever. But, Russell Wilson, he was looked over. I mean, no one liked him. They didn't like the guy, and he came in and showed everybody, I'm going to tie Peyton Manning's record for the most pass touchdowns in a single season. I'm still going to rush for 4 more touchdowns. I'm going to, bring this team to the playoffs to an 11-5 record, get into the divisional round of the playoffs. Should have gone to the NFC Championship game, and we came up just short. It takes a full team to win in the NFL. It takes a defense to win championships. I've always stood by that. Without a defense, your team will not win championships. Your offense will bring you to the playoffs, but if your defense doesn't show up in the playoffs, because the playoffs are a different story than the regular season, your defense, you will not win at all. The Seahawks and Broncos, for example, the Seahawks defense didn't show up at the end of the game. They let up too many points. You can't let up 20 points without your offense scoring any. And then in the first half, and then they lost the game by 2 points. And then the Broncos, the defense was, best defense, and they go and face the Ravens. The Ravens come into Denver, shock the world, and win in overtime, double overtime. So your defense has to show up. And like I said, in my opinion, defense wins championships. The Seahawks have the best defense in the NFL, right up there with the Broncos, the Bears, the 49ers as well. And that is my Seattle Seahawks 2013 team preview. I do not know which team I will be doing next. I'll be with Justin in the next video. I wanted to grind out a few videos for you guys by myself. Justin had a few videos. He should give you guys the link in the description down below because he will be uploading these. And I also go check out my channel, Pro Sports Analysis 96. And right now I'm going to be working on my top 32 quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm going to be talking about right now. I already have Blaine Gabbert, 32nd starter in the NFL for quarterbacks, and then I'll be getting into Mark Sanchez, Geno Smith in my next video soon. So go check out my channel, go subscribe. I'll be bouncing back from channel to channel making videos. It's a lot of hard work. I have school coming up, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Seattle Seahawks 2013, 13-3. Watch out for them this year. They're going to be dangerous. They should be fun to watch, and hope you guys had a great time. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Have a great day.